the beautiful, the wonderful, the talented Benjamin Denon.
I don't know about all this beautiful business. Bold is beautiful. Hey, way to get that last note. Doesn't matter how you start, all that matters is how you finish. It's just a good practice in life. I'm just kidding. How's everyone doing? Wow, there's a lot of people I don't know out here, which is good. Well, I know a bunch of you, yes, but not everybody. Like Alex said, my name is Ben. I'm really glad to be here. I'm really glad to be here at my favorite time of year. Who here loves Christmas? Like 3 of you. Great! Jason, we should have done something different. Yeah, this is my absolute favorite time of year. Now, who in here are the haters that just despise? Anybody in here despise Christmas music? Right, and all right, so let's take this a different level then. Who in here says Christmas music can't start until after Thanksgiving? Who here says it doesn't matter, there's no rules, anarchy lives, we can do Christmas songs whenever we want to? Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a very, very big fan of Christmas music. It's just great. And so when Jason says, hey, you want to come up here and preach, and it's going to be about Christmas carols, I was like, sweet, because I love Christmas music. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. But before we dive into that, I wanted to kind of start you off with some very interesting things I learned today about Christmas. Those of you who know me and remember that I am a huge fan of random information that will get you nowhere in life. So this is some really good trivia material. So, you guys ready for some fun Christmas facts? Okay. These were all verified by like Wikipedia and stuff, so we know they're all real. All right. Okay, so a bunch of Norwegian scientists have hypothesized that Rudolph's red nose is probably the result of a parasitic infection of his respiratory system. So, poor Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer has a parasite inside of him. We've actually done this, we did this question a long time ago during a trivia contest here, but anybody know, if you, off the top of your head, if you total up all the presents of 12 Days of Christmas, how many will you receive?
A metric correct.
364 gifts. That's a lot. You know, that's just a lot of like doves and crap. I don't want that. I don't want any of that. This one was really interesting to me. Most of Santa's reindeer have male-sounding names, such as Blitzen, because that's really manly sounding, and Comet and Cupid. However, male reindeer shed their antlers around Christmas, so the reindeer pulling Santa's sleigh are not male, but female, or castrati. And if you don't know what the castrati are, ask your parents when you get home. I'm not sharing that with you. So, Blitzen's a girl. So that's kind of cool. According to the data analyzed, this one's really, who in here has a girlfriend or a boyfriend? Who in here has ever had a relationship with somebody that you've been in love with madly? Okay, so this is very interesting to me. A research company analyzed data from Facebook posts. The 2 weeks, 14 days before Christmas, is the most popular time for couples to break up. Yes. And Christmas Day is the least popular. So those of you in a relationship right now, 14 days before Christmas, I'd be careful. You know, make sure you say really nice things. But you're safe on Christmas Day. So anybody in here afraid of spiders? Any men in here willing to admit that they're afraid of spiders? Like, we all like to pretend like, oh no man, I got this. But there are definitely some insect-like creatures that can make us scream, right? The right kind of fuzzy spider will get all of us. For me, it's actually not like, just about any kind of bug as an individual bug's fine. They start getting their friends together, and like just about, one ant's no big deal. 300 come pouring out of a hole in the counter or something, and it's like horror movie time. A little time out here. I'm a big coffee fan, and the greatest invention in the world to me was the Keurig machine, because I'm also very lazy. So just being able to drop something in and make my coffee for me every day. Well, a couple months ago, beginning of summer, we moved into this new house that had been vacant for 3 years, and it backs up to the woods. So we're trying to reclaim that territory from various species of bugs. And one day I go in to, get my coffee, and of course, I'm one of those people, as the older I get, I'm not awake until I get my coffee kind of thing. And I go to open up the top of the curtain thing, and I swear to God, it was just like a horror movie. They just come flowing, these bugs just come flowing out, crawling down the sides. And I thought for sure there's going to be like a little child laughing and something. It freaked me out. It really freaked me out. I probably screamed. No joke. It was so gross to me that we threw it away. We didn't even bother trying to get them all out. We just threw the whole Keurig machine away. It was disgusting. Okay, so anyway, that has nothing to do with what I'm trying to say here. So spiders, back to spiders. In Poland, spiders or spider webs are common Christmas tree decorations because according to legend, a spider wove a blanket for baby Jesus. Aww, isn't that nice? In fact, Polish people consider spiders to be the symbol of goodness and prosperity at Christmas. Leave it to the Polish. So, and true story, by the way, if you refer to Polish people, I know these probably aren't around anymore, we live in such a politically correct time, but we used to always, when I was a teenager, there was like Polak jokes, and a Polak is not actually a derogatory term, that's actually what you call a Polish male, is a Polak. So, in case you wondered, you're not, being racist if you say that or something. Okay, Christmas was not an official holiday in the United States until 1870. It's pretty cool. Least Christmassy state is Oklahoma because they didn't make it a legal holiday until 1907. Scrooge state, that sucks. This one's really good. Yeah. Anybody here ever kissed under the mistletoe? No. Nobody? But we know, like every Christmas movie. Yeah, did you raise your hand?
Yes.
Who did you kiss? I had to think about it for a second. You guys need to have a conversation when we get done here. Okay, so mistletoe comes from an Anglo-Saxon word that I can't pronounce. And it means little dung twig because the plant spreads through bird poop. So you're kissing under a bird poop plant of some kind. Nice. Consider that the next time. So just some interesting things. And one of my biggest pet peeves around this time of year, the thing that I can't stand the most, are the people the Christians in particular, who get all crazy mad about the fact that people say happy holidays, or this one's really funny to me, and Jason, I'm sure you already know this, I think we've had this conversation before, but who get really angry when we say Xmas. It's like, oh my gosh, we're taking the Christ out of Christmas, as if you have the power to take Jesus out of anything. Good try there, a wise and powerful one. But here's the funny thing. Xmas originated in the mid-1500s because X was the Greek, or it had something to do with the Greek letter for Christ. So by saying Xmas, you're saying Christmas. So get over yourself, crazy person. And yeah, a little side note, you definitely nobody has the power to take Jesus out of something. If you think you do, you've got problems. Okay. So, we're here tonight. Somebody has a clicker somewhere. Yes. All right. So tonight, we are going behind the music. So, the theory being, this time of year, there's like 10 songs that everybody sings 1,000 times during Christmas season. And most of these have words and language that we sing a bunch of times, but don't really stop to think of what it means. At least I think that's what the series is supposed to be about. I inferred that. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to take some Christmas songs and kind of look at what their meanings are. So tonight, I wanted to pick Frosty the Snowman, but Jason said no. So we ended up going with a song called Oh Come All You Faithful. I had to think about that for a second. Come All You Faithful. So tonight, what I want to do is I just want to share with you just some of my thoughts after reading through this very awesome carol, and just see, hey, what is this actually all about? So first, I'm going to throw some history at you. I got any history buffs in the room? Yeah, I'm a big fan of history. I absolutely love history. And so I love random information. So, if this works, She shut it off on me. Darn you. Okay. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, so the original title, or the Latin translation, I actually had to look up and print out. I don't speak Latin very well. So, Adeste Fideles is what Wikipedia told me it was pronounced as. Okay, so if you want just a little bit of history, it was written, believed to be around 1740 by this guy named John Francis Wade, who was essentially like the Chris Tomlin of his time. He was essentially a worship songwriter. And he wrote this, originally written with 4 verses, and then 4 were added later. Thankfully, we don't sing all 8 verses. There's actually a 9th even. So it's a really old song. It's been around for a very long time. There's actually fierce debate. Who has time to sit around and debate these things? I don't know, but there's actually I found out, there's a really passionate thing about who actually wrote this song. And so people have spent their life researching the history of this song. I'm like, dude, man, there's something better to do? Okay, so anyway, "Oh Come All Ye Faithful." Everybody in this room probably has heard this song, I would assume, right? Yep. It's one of your classic Christmas carols. If you're going to go caroling, it's probably the one you're going to sing. In fact, I believe you're doing this one tonight, aren't you? Oh, there you go. See, we didn't even talk.
Not quite a traditional.
So it's a great song. I keep turning this way, expecting people to be at this table, and there's no one there. So I'm sorry. I just like talking to empty tables. All right, so I'm just going to pull out a few of the words of some of the things that really struck me in this song. So the first thing we're going to look at comes from the title, and it's sung many times. The faithful. What does that mean? Oh, come all ye faithful. Because at the core of this song is this idea of the faithful. What does faithful mean? That wasn't a rhetorical question. What does faithful mean? Yeah. Trusting. Okay.
Strong
Good.
in belief.
What?
Strong in belief.
Strong in belief. What else?
Those having faith.
So if you... Way to use the word in the definition. Faithful, the act of having faith to fullness. That's pretty much what it is. Pretty much what it is. So, what does it mean to be faithful to somebody? If I remain faithful to my wife, what does that mean? Not cheating. That's good. So is that all faithfulness is? As long as I don't have an extramarital affair, I'm good. No, faithfulness is a little bit deeper. Now, as I am prone to do, I went to dictionary.com because that is way more official than Wikipedia. And I looked it up, and here's some of the definitions they came up with. True to one's word, promises, vows, etc. Steady in allegiance or affection, loyal, constant, reliable, trusted, or believed. Okay, so being faithful is all of these things. And so this song is a call to action. Oh, come, all you who are faithful. So who is it calling? Us? Christians. We are faithful. We are all these things to what? Now, here's an interesting thing to me because I know at different times I am unfaithful to a lot of those things. I break my word with Jesus. I sin. I do things that are wrong. So I am not faithful all the time. And one of the cool things that got me thinking about this is I did like a word search going through trying to find verses that talk about faithfulness. And you know what? Interesting thing. This is an unofficial statistic. I haven't checked to make sure that this adds up, but it sure seems like there's a heck of a lot more verses about how faithful God is to us than it is about how much we need to be faithful to Him. I think that's actually a really cool thing. I had to struggle to find the commandments about us being faithful to Him, but man, abundance of verses going, He is faithful to you. He will remain faithful. He will remain by your side. And I was like, wow, that's actually a really, really cool thing. You know, when I hear faithfulness, because I'm a married adult now, I tend to think of faithfulness in a marriage context. And I think it's also very interesting that the church, all of us Christians together, and as individuals, is constantly, in the New Testament, the writers use the metaphor of marriage, right? And so, not only do, in a marriage, both sides have to remain faithful, right? It's not like only the girls have to remain faithful, dudes can do whatever they want, right? Theoretically. Both sides are supposed to remain faithful to each other. So there is actually a pact here with Jesus. He will remain faithful, hold up His end of the bargain, and we will too. But the cool thing about Jesus is, even when we do not remain faithful, Anybody ever been cheated on? Yeah, kind of not a very fun experience, right? Anybody in here ever do the cheating? I saw Alec flinch a little bit. Still good? Still good? You're still okay there? It's really not a great situation to be in. So here's the deal. If you think about unfaithfulness being the same as cheating, in some way, you don't have to raise your hand with this, but have you ever been unfaithful in your commitment to Jesus? If you ever made a vow, a promise to Jesus that you didn't hold up your end of the bargain? I know I have many times. Essentially, I keep cheating on God, and yet He still remains faithful to me. That's kind of a cool thing. So just a couple verses to throw at you that I thought were, really kind of struck me. So Hebrews 10:23 says, "Let us hold tightly without wavering to the hope we affirm, for God can be trusted to keep His promises." God is faithful that what He promises us, He's going to come through with. That's a pretty cool concept. 1 John 1:9. If we confess our sins to Him, what? He is faithful. Just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all wickedness. So, both these verses just pulled out a couple quick things about how God remains faithful. So just keep that faithfulness idea in the back of your mind. So it'll come all you faithful. We talk about being faithful. Here's another one. I pulled this out of the first verse. And again, in preparation for the sermon, I just basically sat down and read through the carol and just looked at these concepts that really seemed to jump out at me. So let's talk about joy and triumph for a minute. What is joy?
Happiness.
Is joy happiness?
Never-ending happiness.
Never-ending happiness.
Lasting peace.
Lasting peace. Okay, that's good. What else? Joyfulness is the fullness of being joy-ish. What is joy? What is joy? Now, I'm really glad that we had a couple of people bring up that H word, because I want to tell you, actually, it is my very firm belief that joy and happiness are two very separate concepts. They can occur at the same time, and certainly there can be an element of happiness in your joy, but here's how I tend to differentiate the two. Happiness is more of a temporal emotion to me. Happiness is based on what's going on around us. I don't think we always have control over happiness. I think it's actually there are times when it's appropriate for you to not be happy. I have a 4-year-old son named Carter, and I really wish he could have made this trip because he tends to kill people with his cuteness. And I would have just brought him up here just so you could look at him, and then, that would have been cool. But I adore him. And he's actually at a fun age now, to where he doesn't just sit on the couch and I'm like, oh, that's cute, but what do I do with that? But now, we play video games. He's obsessed with all the Lego games. Yes, Lego Batman 3, the Outer Space, awesome. We play it all the time together. Love it. And I'm really close to my son, which is a good thing, I guess. But if my son were to die tonight, I would not be happy. And in fact, would it not be a little twisted if I was happy? I should go to the funeral and be happy. So there may be times it's appropriate for you to not show or feel happiness. So if you're not feeling happy all the time, that's not a weird thing. But we're told to have joy in all things. So when we equate those two and make happiness the same thing as joy, I think it really takes joy down a notch. So if happiness is not the same thing as joy, then what is joy?
Contentment?
Ooh, I like that word. I think that you could tie joy back into that last verse that we looked at, or the first verse that we looked at, of holding fast to hope. I think joy is a bit of a choice. And joy is a knowledge that even though life could suck right now, God's still there. Joy goes much deeper than happiness. And here's one of the reasons why I think this is interesting. Around Christmas time, joy is a very common word that's thrown around. A bunch of carols have joy in it. Even when you think back to that first Christmas, and we're going to look at this in a second. Actually, I'm going to hold off because I'm going to blow what I want to talk about. So Just remember, we're going to talk about joy in a second. But here's one of the things that I want you to remember is that joy is enduring. The Bible talks about us being able to always cling to joy and have joy through all things. And I remember reading that and then having a lot of confusion of this idea that I think it is. Has anybody actually ever been around a person who's always happy to the point where you're like, I don't like that person? Right? Like the other person who's always like really cheerful at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, go to bed? Like, get away from me? And those kind of people always drove me crazy. So when I heard about having joy all the time, I always thought of that guy. Or it's always a girl, by the way. Guys are never happy all the time. Isn't it always a girl? Man. Yeah, well, good for you. But that was clearly not me, okay? And so when I thought of, like, I have to have joy all the time, I was like, I actually don't want to be that person. So, no. That if you're one of those people that's happy all the time, that is a good thing. Don't change. Just don't get around me in the morning. But it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. So triumph. What is this whole triumph thing? What does that word mean? Besides the fact that it's kind of hard to say, triumph.
Victory.
Victory. Okay. See, and I pulled this from, of course, the first line of the song, "O come all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant." So this song is a call, right? It's like texting everybody and saying, come here, you who are joyful and triumphant.
Not a group chat, no.
Yeah, it's so a group chat. Worst thing about group text is that I have these friends who send out these group texts every Thursday for this Bible study I'm in. Problem is when somebody responds, these you get like 1,000 group texts. Okay, so stop sending them.
Toucan. I don't get them.
Okay, so you are joyful. This is what it's called. It's calling you the faithful, joyful, and triumphant. So why would you be triumphant?
Because of Jesus. And because of the way. Well, hold on.
Because of Jesus. No, I think he knows what he's talking about. We'll see.
The fact that we have triumphed over the slavery of sin, if you read the Bible, you go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, very good. Very good. Why do Christians have a reason to be joyful at all times? And why are we always triumphant? And one of the, I think, disabilities that Americans have is that we see the world through American eyes. And here in America, we don't know what suffering really, most Americans, there are certainly those who do, but most Americans don't know what true suffering looks like. We definitely don't know what true persecution looks like. And so it's a lot, I think, easier for us to equate joy and happiness together because for the most part, we have a fair amount of opportunities to be happy. Now, for me to talk then to a Christian in a third world country or in Africa where Ebola is wiping out the continent, the southern part of the continent, and going, oh yeah, we're joyful, we're triumphant. How are you triumphant? You guys seem to be losing at life. How does that feel like victory? I think it's a whole different world when you look at that. And actually, some of you in this room, I think a lot of adults don't realize how difficult life can be going through the forced education camps of high school and middle school. But I mean, teenagers can be rough to each other, right? And you guys face some brutal stuff. Some of you guys come from very difficult lives. And so I can see how it would be very hard to feel like you're actually winning at something. And here's the cool thing, what this is saying is you have victory. Not because of something you've done, but because of something Jesus has done. Which is hard to understand when you're going through the tough parts in life. But again, I think that ties back to this idea that some of these things aren't temporal. They go deeper than that. Okay, so let's move on. There's a couple things, this is the most repeated phrase in the song, but there's a couple things, that I think is really cool about this. You can see I added my emphasis. Come let us. First of all, what I love about this song is the song is that it's corporate. In other words, sometimes we become so me-focused, that's all about me. And what I love about this song is it's about us doing something together. I think that's actually really cool. Let's not all just approach our personal Lord and Savior, my one-on-one relationship with God. Let's worship Him together, which I think is a really cool concept in and of its own. But it uses the word adore, and I like that. So what does adore mean? Not a door that you open. What does adore mean? Worship, love, adoring still, praise, be amazed at. I love this word choice because it is different than saying, come let us show Him our love, or come let us love Him. It says adore, and it's a great word that we don't get to use enough. Although, again, the English language is not the greatest language in the world because we tend to abuse words a lot, like, well, to use love for a second, I love my wife, I love my son, and I love pizza. I hope I don't mean the same thing for all three, although one would argue I might. I love lamb, right. Well, we can say the same thing, like, I absolutely adore that game. And I adore Jesus. Do I mean the same thing? Like, I adore Far Cry 4. Anybody else adore that game? I am obsessed with that game. And I adore my wife. Is that the same thing? Right? Okay, so let's look at what dictionary.com, the ultimate source of information and truth, says. Come let us adore Him. Adore means to regard with the utmost esteem, love, respect, and honor. Pausing for a second on utmost. What does utmost mean? Another word we don't use a whole lot. Yeah, like we give the most amount possible over anything else that I would give. Right. To pay divine honor to worship. Somebody said praise, somebody said worship. Yep, that's good. Okay. So this song is calling the faithful who are what? What does that mean?
Loyal. Great.
Yep, loyal is good. The joyful, what does that mean?
Content.
Hopeful, content, I like those words. Triumphant, what does that mean? Yep, we've been given victory. Let us do what? Let us adore Him. Okay, so I've thrown a lot of those kind of concepts at you. And this is all typical churchy stuff, right? Like, okay, that's great. I mean, there's some truth to be pulled out of it, but we kind of get it. We're supposed to do these things. Okay, that's good. We'll continue to hold on to that. Now, here's where I think, here's the life-changing, or the world-changing, rather, aspect of this song comes out. Up to this point, it's like I said, yeah, okay, this is great, but, there's nothing that groundbreaking about this song. It could be a generic worship song about anything, right? Here's my favorite part. Here's my favorite verse. And it talks about who we are coming to worship. And there's this really great line, and I'm actually looking through your chart. I'm trying to see, I don't know that what the version we did, it's great. We don't actually sing this verse, which is cool, because I love this part. All right, so there's this line that comes up, and it's actually referenced a few times. Now in flesh appearing. This is who we're adoring. This is who the joyful and triumphant are coming to adore. Now in flesh appearing. This person is now in flesh appearing. Besides being a little bit of a Yoda statement, I wish I could do a Yoda impression. I can't. But this is kind of how he would say this. Not appearing in flesh, but in flesh appearing. What does that mean? That Jesus is now in flesh appearing.
He wasn't in flesh before, it's a new thing.
Yeah, okay, that's very good, very good. He is now appearing in the flesh. What does that mean, in flesh? Besides sounding kind of cool and gross at the same time.
To have a physical body.
In the physical realm, right? What is flesh? This stuff, right? Okay. Now I want to throw some Messiah history at you. I've always loved this aspect of Christmas. But before I go there, I want to share with you guys a horrible story, and it's a little gross, so I apologize in advance. I am obsessed with milk. I love milk. I drink, if it was financially feasible for me to own a cow just so I could have all the milk I wanted, I would do it. Except for, remember that whole lazy part? this is too much work. So I still go just to the store and buy my milk.
They need a milk Keurig.
I love milk Keurig. Yes, something we attach to the cow. Still too gross. I don't know. We'll work on that. Let's talk it out, maybe think it through, patent it. Milk Keurig. Yuck. It's gross. Okay. But I love it. I love milk. Again, love milk, love my wife. Hopefully not the same thing. But I do. I really enjoy a good glass of milk. And there was this one youth camp that I went to when I was in high school. When I was a lot thinner than I am now. And it was really hot outside. And me and my friends had just played tennis for like, no joke, probably 4 hours straight in a lot of heat. Why tennis? I don't know. I was terrible at it. It wasn't really a game I played well, but that year I played a ton of it. And chasing each other around, not chasing each other. That would be weird. Chasing the ball all over the tennis court. We were terrible, so that meant more running than we probably should have had to do. And so I was just really thirsty. And why I went for milk in the first place, not usually what you go for when you're super dehydrated, but whatever. I love milk. Don't judge me. And so it was at this campground. They didn't have like the cool, well, it's kind of like a Keurig machine for milk. Like you go up and you put your cup under it, it spits out milk. It's already been invented, dude. Crap. Anyway, they didn't have that. They just had the little cartons. Those little tiny individual cartons. They're awesome. Well, I went and I was so thirsty. And so I went and got a carton. And if you ever drunk, taken so many gulps of something, you've been so thirsty that you don't even register the taste until the cup's almost all the way gone, or you get through that kind of thing. Yep. That was me, right? I'm like 3/4 of the way through this carton, and then suddenly it is spewing out of my mouth and all over the people across the table from me. And I kid you not, it was like, I don't remember the year, but let's say it was like 97. We'll just go there. So the camp was like August 2007. No, 97. We said 97 is what we're going with. So it was like August 97, and I look at the expiration date, and I kid you not, it was like November of 96. It had expired like 10 months earlier. And yeah, it was completely and utterly chunky, nasty, disgusting, sour. So there was a couple of things that went on with that story. First of all, it was expired milk. That's terrible. The best part of the story is that my friends got to share in the fun since I sprayed them. That was the only redeeming factor. But have you also ever had that experience where you go to take a drink of something and you're expecting it to be Coke, but it's like sweet tea or something like that? And it's like, it's not a bad taste, it's just that your mind was all geared up for one thing, and then you get the other thing, you're like, wow, just the shock value that has with it. Now imagine that with milk that was like 10 months old, expired for 10 months. So it was that extra shock value. It was one of the most disturbing moments of my life, to the point to where I tell a story whenever I can, so everybody can be grossed out. But that was a horrible moment. I had been expecting something delicious in milk, and was given something very unexpected, something I absolutely did not want at that moment. That's kind of what Jesus's birth was for the Jews at the time. It was a little bit like getting spoiled milk. And why do I say that? The Jews at the time of Jesus coming were very badly oppressed. Again, we have a hard time getting persecution and understanding persecution. I actually kind of laugh inside a little bit every time I read these stories about headlines, Christian websites, things like this, about the persecution is here, guys, we've got to fight against it. No, it's not. Anything that's going on in America right now that we struggle with is not the same thing as persecution. It might not be easy all the time, but we have it wonderful here in America. At this time, the Jews were very much a conquered people. The Roman Empire had come in and set up their way of doing things, as it happened many times throughout Israel's history. And it was a rough time. And they were looking for their Savior. There had been this promise of this Messiah. And we now know the Messiah to be who? Jesus. We know the end of that particular story. So we understand that the Messiah always was going to be and was the literal Son of God. The literal God in human flesh. But that's not what they were expecting at that time. You see, there have been many times in Israel's history where they had strayed from God, they had been conquered, and God sent them a rescuer. Was it Jesus at those times? No. Who are some of the people that rescued the Jews in the Old Testament? Moses. Human guy. I love the book of Judges. The book of Judges is basically an Avengers comic book set in the Bible. I mean, it's superhero after superhero doing crazy, awesome stuff. No joke, killing like 2,000 bad guys with the jawbone of a donkey. I mean, how cool is that? Like, I really want to see that movie. Quit making cheesy Christian movies and give me the one where the dude kills 2,000 people with a jawbone. I am all about that movie. I want to see that movie. They're expecting some kind of Thor-like creature, some kind of superhero that's going to save them. But what they were expecting was a human who was going to lead them to power, who was going to free them from their oppressors. And instead, not only did they get God who shows up in human form and later says, no guys, I'm not about this. I'm not here to start this rebellion. That's not why I came. But on top of it, he doesn't come to Earth. Like, can you imagine how boring the Thor movies would be if when he comes through the, whatever you call it, what do they call the thing he transports through? Anybody a big... Huh? Thank you, the Einstein-Rosen bridge. What if when he came to Earth, he had to come as a baby, and we had to watch the first 18 years of his life before the movie got cool, right? I mean, that's like even worse, 33 years of his life. Jesus didn't come down to Earth as the conquering hero. How did he show up? It's a baby. Now again, we think of that as great because we know the end story. But Jesus chose to show up in flesh. Now babies, who here likes babies? I don't like them at all. Nope, I have a 4-year-old and I'm really thankful for that now. No, he was all right when he was a baby. But for the most part, I really did. I really loved him when he was a baby. But I don't, for the most part, love babies so much. In fact, he was the first one I really held. And I don't really make it a point to find more babies to hold. It's just not really my thing. They're messy. They literally poop all the time. Like 24 hours a day, they poop. Right? And I'm like, well, I really think God got that whole pooping cycle off a little bit. They should be pooping all day when they can do it on their own. Not when I gotta clean it up. It's disgusting. Man, really. And people, just a little time out there. When Tessa was pregnant, people were always like, oh, I remember when I had a baby. Oh, I remember their first poop. It was so cute. No, it wasn't. It was still poop. Poop is not cute. It's never cute. Stinky. Yuck. Gross. Think about this. Jesus, a couple lines earlier in the song, we see this great line about Jesus. And it says, he's the highest, most holy, light of light eternal. That is a wonderful poetic way of saying Jesus was freaking awesome. Jesus in heaven is the absolute, most holy, highest, most powerful being that we could have. He's eternal. Have you ever sat down and tried to comprehend eternal and what that could possibly mean? Yep. That is so much bigger in theoretical physics. It is so bigger and weirder than anything we can comprehend. Everything that we understand in the planet dies. Everybody in this room is going to die at some point. Hate to break the really bad news to everybody, but y'all going to die at some point, right? But Jesus was bigger than all of that. And he gives all of that power up in a way to show up as what? I really don't want anybody having to clean up my poop for me. That's really kind of humiliating and really the ultimate form for me of feeling like I've lost control. I mean, think about it. No, babies don't have to go to work. But I remember having these epiphanies when Carter's first learning how to crawl, and it takes him like 2 hours to get from the couch to the TV. And he's just been working on it so hard, and you see the tremendous amount of strain. And as soon as he gets there, we just come up and pick him up and take him away. And it's like, he just worked like a third of his lifetime to cross the room, and somebody can just come up and pick him, move, stop him from what he's doing. He could be having the most amazing time of his life, and I had the power to come up, pick him up, and make him do something else. You have no power as a baby. You're completely helpless. You're at your most vulnerable state, and that's how the Savior of the world decides to show up. I think there's so much power in that. If I was writing a book, How to Be the Most Powerful Being in the Universe and How to Save the World from Its Own Destruction, chapter 1 would not have started with my birth. I would have come in with long, flowing, awesome hair and a big, stinking sword and probably lasers. I don't know how I would have worked it in, but lasers would have to be involved somehow. And it would be awesome, right? I mean, right now, if you want to make $1 billion as a filmmaker, just make a superhero movie. They're super popular right now because we love superheroes. There aren't tons of movies about babies saving the world. Because that's usually not step one. That's not chapter 1. And I want you to think about something for a second. Is God all powerful? Can he basically do whatever he wants to do? Then why start as a baby? Did he need to? Why start that way? I mean, most of all we know about Jesus' life is the fact that he was born in a barn, kind of a cave, and then 30 years go by that we know like one scene from, but most of Jesus' life that we know of is 3 years at the end of his physical life on earth. Why did he have to come for those first 30? Anybody have an idea? Yeah.
Because he was all man as well as all God, so to be all man, he had to go through the human experience.
Yeah. Think about that for a second. We definitely don't need to share these, but I want you to think about just for a second some of the worst moments of your life to this point. Let's do a concentration exercise. Everybody close your eyes for a second. Think about the worst moment in your life. Maybe the most embarrassing. Maybe something terrible happened. Maybe it's just one of those moments you wish you could have just disappeared because it was humiliating. I don't know, whatever it might be. If somebody gave you the power, if you would have been, about to be born, and God says, hey, you know what, you could skip that, go later, and just skip to the good parts, would be awfully tempting to skip those parts, wouldn't it? But then again, I could actually probably sit down with you with my 9/10 of a graduate degree that I have in counseling and other studies, and said, I could sit down with you probably, and you could share me with those stories, and I bet you we could identify that who you are today is partially because of those horrible moments you went through. Things don't turn out the way they do without the negative. The good in life that you have cannot be appreciated without the bad. So Jesus, in all of his wisdom, says, you know what? I'm going to go through some really tough stuff. We don't know much about those first 30 years, but I bet you there were some pretty bad moments in there. Some hurtful moments. He probably got made fun of at times. He got teased. He pooped. Jesus did poop. It's okay. And by the way, I didn't pick one of these songs, but all these songs about Jesus not crying when he was a baby, if he didn't cry when he was a baby, there was a medical problem. Like, that's how they're supposed to communicate. So Jesus most certainly cried. I don't know why that rumor got started. Jesus could have chosen any way to save the world. And he chose to come down and go through the same kind of garbage that we have to go through. He got to grow up in a world where his race and his religion made him hated. He had to watch people get beaten up and oppressed and abused. He lost loved ones. He went through a lot of tough stuff for us. So part of the reason that we adore him is because of he is the one true faithful thing in this world. There's a lot of things in our world that are not very dependable. People hurt us. Life can really stink sometimes. And in fact, despite the fact that he knows we are going to be unfaithful to him, he remains faithful to us. He chose a tough go of it. And again, on that note, if I was going to come down as a savior, I think I would have picked a time when there was like the iPhone invented, not 2,000 years ago, when the only way to get around was walking through dirt roads covered in camel poop. I'm talking about poop a lot tonight. I don't know why. We'll talk about that later. Worship team can go ahead and come on up here, because we're going to get ready to close. One of the things I hope you do this Christmas season, I don't want to over-spiritualize the Christmas season. I am one of those people that thinks there's absolutely nothing wrong with celebrating all the fun sides of Christmas too, or the Santa Claus of Christmas and all of that kind of stuff. Christmas is a great time of year, not just because of the religious season, but at the same time, one of the great things about Christmas is that it gives us an opportunity to see a different side of Jesus, to see a different side of all those main characters. It's a brief glimpse into Jesus' most vulnerable state when he came down to earth, and I think it shows us a lot how much God really loved us to come in that situation. So let's pray, and let's continue on in worship, I believe. Jesus, thank you so much for giving us this time tonight. This is a fun time of year. It's also the busiest time of year for a lot of people, and I just pray that we can slow down just enough to be able to experience some of what you want us to experience this year. God, we thank you so much for making yourself vulnerable, for coming down as a helpless baby. Not the most glamorous way to enter the world. God, we love you so much. And I just pray that you continue to move in these students' lives. God, I pray that this Christmas season we get to experience a different side of you. In your name, amen.